Let all with one accord,
in common bond united,
build this our nation together,
and the glory of Kenya,
the fruit of our labor.
Fill every heart with thanksgiving.
We, the people of Kenya,
proud of our ethnic,
cultural,
and religious
diversity,
and determined to live in
peace and unity
as one indivisible sovereign nation,
adopt,
enact,
and give this constitution to ourselves
and to our future generations,
and to our future generations,
and to our future generations.
Inspiring words of the third verse of Kenya's national anthem, words that capture the aspiration of a people working together for a common good. Words whose spirit is also captured in the preamble of the Kenyan Constitution. The Kenyan people have managed to live together side by side, doing business and going through motions together each day. Their solidarity is unshakable during times of adversity. In sports, they come out in large numbers, donning national colors to support their own. When it comes to politics, this united nation that is supposed to pull together disintegrates into 42 small nations within a nation.
We have come to announce a coalition of ideas between...
The use of identity politics to promote narrow tribal interests have had adverse effects on Kenya's development. At independence in 1963, Kenya and South Korea were at par economically. In fact, Kenya, with a present GDP per capita of about $900 as estimated by the World Bank, was among nations that financed the rebuilding of South Korea with a loan in 1963. The GDP of South Korea now stands at more than $33,000.
You cannot allow hyena to protect...
Tribal politics has played a fair share in the difference between the two nations.
Pedal around.
When President Kenyatta formed the first government, in the first place, there was national outlook. Where in the first few years, Kenyans, they had confidence and they worked round the clock. And in quotes, they were not concerned about politics and who is who where. But immediately, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga went to the opposition. Is now when the roots of tribalism started cropping up.
Kenya celebrates her freedom heroes and heroines on October 20th of each year. The heroes are celebrated for fighting for freedom in the country. Many feel the founding president Jomo Kenyatta could have laid a firmer foundation at independence in terms of uniting Kenya.
The current president's father, his weakest point at independence is that he did not come up with a crafting system on how he would have molded the communities together in such a way that they would have become a nation state which was proud of being the nation first before we become the tribal nations.
Although every successive government continues to talk of Kenya as one nation, the rhetoric of nationhood for long has not been accompanied by concerted efforts to build a united nations like the founding father of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere.
We talk about unity, knowing that we are Kenyans. We don't belong to small tribes and so on. We are Kenyans, and we should remain Kenyans.
To a large extent, Tanzanians have maintained that unity. If you go to Tanzania, you'll find most Tanzanians talk in terms of I am a Tanzanian and we do this in Tanzania and Tanzanians love to do this. But in Kenya, you'll find that what we discuss are I am a Kisi and we Kisis do our things like this, but we don't like the way the Luyas do that, or we don't like the way the Kikuyus do everything.
The shaky political foundation upon which the country was founded has hampered any meaningful collective engagement among Kenyans to deal with critical national issues.
It has become very costly now because government after government was set up and formed on the basis of tribalism.
At the end of it all, if all the communities in Kenya pull to their own tribes and go to their own cocoons, then we'll not have a nation state. And yet Kenya is supposed to be a unitary state. I believe some point somebody might come up with a referendum, say now we need federalism.
After Kenyatta's reign, it was Moi's turn to lead the country. The concern of many Kenyans during Moi's era was largely dedicated to the second liberation through multi-party democracy. The advent of multi-party democracy in 1990 served only to strengthen tribal politics.
Kuimba ngoma ambayo haijulikani, unaimba ngoma ukiulizwa anasema sijui nasikia. Msiende kwa njia hiyo, tutunze nchi yetu.
The absence of efforts to build genuine political parties that compete on the basis of ideas, Kenya, like many African countries, reverted to tribal identities as foundations for political competition.
And in 1963, if Mzee Kenyatta and myself did not discuss fully about the future of Kenya, because Rift Valley is a big area and Kenya as a whole, including coast, political parties would have destroyed the country.
I don't believe he was right. I believe his fears were legitimate, which is what has happened in Kenya anyway. All the political parties that you have basically based, they're tribally based. You have URP is Kalenjin based. TNA is Kikuyu based. Ford People is Kisii based. Ford Kenya is Luya based. And to a large ODM is Luo based. So to a large extent, Moi was actually correct. But the only problem you had is the signs of the times were inevitably going to be very difficult for any president not to accept multipartyism.
Wananchi wa Kenya, nikiona nyinyi mimi saa ingine mimi karibu kulia.
President Moi effectively used the state agencies in dividing the first political opposition, the Forum for Restoration for Democracy, FORD, to sustain himself in power. Moi was in power for 24 years.
He made sure that there was a division between Matiba and the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. On the basis that he made sure that Matiba moved out with Ford Asil, which reflected Kikuyus. And then Jaramogi was left with the same reflection of Luos behind now the Ford Kenya at that time. So in the process, Moi managed now to fulfill his prophecy.
President Mwai Kibaki in 2002 had the opportunity to unite a nation when different political leaders united to support his bid for the presidency. A 2003 end-of-year survey by Gallup ranked Kenyans as the most optimistic people on earth following Kibaki's election.
Kibaki, where did he go wrong? The Kibaki who took over the government is not the same Kibaki whom we had proposed and expected to lead the country and make it to be a united country. Why? He had an accident.
In Africa, it is very difficult to think outside the box politically or in any industry. Normally, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. I believe that President Kibaki didn't want to reinvent the wheel. In terms of national cohesion and in terms of putting the country together, he came out, he could have done better, but he didn't do better.
No sooner did Kibaki ascend to power than a new name tag, Mount Kenya Mafia, emerged. This was in reference to a group of influential close friends and associates of the president from his central Kenya region. The group is said to have been behind major decisions in his government. The exclusion of other communities from his administration enhanced divisions further.
There was too many people who had struggled and fought and raised resources to make him president. Now, my belief is once he became the head of state, then he had to own up.
Characters who had held Kenyatta captive now managed to penetrate into Kibaki's system. And again now, with all the system in their hands, the police, the military, the electoral commission and so forth, they rigged and actually stole Raila's victory.
Tribal interests have played a major role in armed conflict and civil unrest across the continent, from Rwanda to Somalia to Democratic Republic of Congo to Sudan, to name but a few. For long, Kenya was held as an island of peace till 2007 general elections, when hell broke loose. The post-poll violence following the 2007-2008 disputed elections claimed more than 1,300 lives. Their crime was belonging to a different tribe. A power-sharing agreement signed between President Mwai Kibaki's Party of National Unity and the Orange Democratic Movement's Raila Odinga ended the violence.
We as Kenyans have gone through very difficult and trying times.
In the 2013 election, Uhuru Kenyatta of Jubilee Coalition won the presidency. The victory was largely described as based on the tyranny of numbers of two communities. A subsequent Supreme Court petition by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga served to further divide Kenyans.
It is the decision of the court that the said elections were indeed conducted in compliance with the Constitution and the law.
The perception for Kenyans now, as we are talking, is that unless you belong, one, into communities that commands tyranny of numbers, one, and number two, resources, and number three, your own people in key positions, then you don't stand to lead this country.
Are you ready, everyone? We go insane.
About a year into his office as the fourth president, the opposition has led a sustained campaign accusing President Uhuru Kenyatta of promoting tribalism through public appointments.
Nasema wakati imewadia.
Promoting national unity remains one of the headaches facing President Uhuru Kenyatta's government amid nationwide campaigns for a referendum by governors and opposition over various national issues.
His major responsibility now is to make sure that Kenyans accept and believe that they can work together.
We must remain united as Kenyans, and I underscore that this is not a matter of choice.
It has been 50 years since Kenya gained independence, but concealed in the 50 years of relative growth is a cancer of tribalism whose symptoms continue to manifest in the country's politics. Let all with one accord, in common bond united, build this our nation together, and the glory of Kenya, the fruit of our labor, fill every heart with thanksgiving.